Tonight, the latest developments demand your full attention, and once you hear this, you'll understand why. For years, whispers have circulated in the background. Allegations, questions, fragments of stories that never quite made it into the mainstream conversation. But now, after what is being described as an 8-year investigation quietly built behind the scenes, a bombshell report is reportedly on the verge of release, and it centers on Meghan Markle's past in a way we have never seen before. I'm going to walk you through everything we know so far, everything that has surfaced overnight, and why this moment could prove to be one of the most consequential yet in the ongoing saga surrounding the Duchess of Sussex. Before we go any further, if you value detailed reporting, deep dives, and independent analysis like this, make sure you subscribe right now, hit like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. And I want you to stay with me until the end, because I'll be asking you a question that could completely reshape this conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know where you stand. Now let's get into it. The investigation in question has reportedly been sitting in draft form since 2018. That's not weeks, that's not months. That's 8 full years of collecting material, sourcing testimonies, archiving screenshots, documenting connections, and according to those involved, tracking what they describe as a cover-up. Overnight, a series of posts hinted that the full report is imminent, and the language used was not subtle. We're talking about references to scrubbed information, hidden connections, alleged links to elite private members clubs, powerful figures, and testimony from individuals who claim they were mistreated. One line stood out to me: collecting sources and filing away testimony from all the people she's treated horribly. That suggests this isn't just about speculation. It's about people who feel wronged and are ready to speak. And then came the phrase that has sent social media into overdrive, the reference to Soho Epstein connections. Now let's be very careful here. Connections do not equal guilt. Association does not equal involvement. But in the court of public opinion, perception is everything. And that's where this becomes explosive. For years, questions have surrounded Meghan Markle's early career. How was she networking at such high levels? How was she traveling so extensively before marrying into the royal family? How did she become embedded in elite social circles that most actors struggle decades to enter? Some point toward her well-documented ties to Soho House, a global private members club known for attracting celebrities, financiers, politicians, and power brokers. Photos of her at Soho locations are public record. Her friendship with figures connected to the brand is no secret. What's new, at least in terms of how it's being framed, is a suggestion that information about certain associations was scrubbed or quietly minimized once she entered royal life. And then there's the resurfaced reference to Virginia Giuffre. Years ago, during legal proceedings involving Prince Andrew, her lawyer publicly stated that Meghan Markle could potentially be called to testify. That comment was reported at the time briefly and then seemed to vanish from headlines. Why would Meghan be mentioned at all? The lawyer's statement was carefully worded. He said she was in the United States, within jurisdiction, and that she was someone who could potentially have knowledge. He added that she could be counted on to tell the truth. That line alone has fueled endless debate. Was it simply procedural, or was it a signal? Here's what I find fascinating. The mainstream media largely moved on. No extended panel discussions, no investigative follow-ups, no primetime breakdowns. And that silence is exactly what some critics now point to as evidence of selective coverage. Let's zoom out. Since stepping back from royal duties, Meghan and Prince Harry have positioned themselves as truth-tellers, advocates, disruptors of institutional secrecy. They've accused the palace of planting stories, protecting certain individuals, and sacrificing others. But critics argue that scrutiny must go both ways. If transparency is the standard, then it applies universally. The upcoming investigation reportedly claims to have archived deleted material, old interviews, event footage, and insider accounts. There are also references to staff who allegedly felt mistreated, something that echoes previous bullying claims that were raised during Meghan's time as a working royal. Those allegations were denied, and no formal findings were publicly released. But the perception of tension within palace walls lingered. Now, add to that the resurfaced footage circulating online, clips from early Hollywood events, red carpets, private gatherings, Some claim they reveal inconsistencies in timelines. Others say they show a side of Meghan that contrasts sharply with her later public persona. Again, interpretation matters, but here's where it becomes political. The individual behind this reported 8-year investigation is known for keeping receipts, for documenting everything, for leaning into controversy rather than shying away from it. And from a legal standpoint, that matters, because you don't publish something of this magnitude without lawyers reviewing every word, especially when it concerns powerful people with the resources to fight back. Which brings me to this question. If the material wasn't solid, why risk it? That's the part that makes observers think this could be significant. Now let's talk about the timing. Meghan has been attempting what many describe as a Hollywood rebrand. Appearances at high-profile events, networking with media figures, aligning herself with philanthropic campaigns and celebrity-driven initiatives. But critics say these appearances sometimes backfire. Recent red carpet footage sparked debate online, with viewers analyzing body language, interactions, even brief moments caught on camera where she appeared to reposition assistants or angle for photographers. Is that unusual in Hollywood? Not really. Public figures constantly adjust positioning for press shots, but perception online can be brutal. Then there's the philanthropy conversation. Meghan has spoken extensively about women's empowerment, racial equity, and social justice. Yet critics point to corporate filings and staffing choices that they claim don't always align perfectly with public messaging. Is that hypocrisy, or simply the messy reality of running organizations in a complex world? You decide. What's undeniable is this: the scrutiny is intensifying. And let's not forget the broader royal context. Prince Andrew's legal troubles placed enormous pressure on the monarchy. The Epstein scandal created global shockwaves. The idea that any additional peripheral names could re-enter that narrative is enough to make palace officials uneasy, even if involvement is tangential, even if it's just a footnote. Because once the media cycle starts, nuance often disappears. And that brings me back to the phrase used in the teaser posts, tracking the cover-up. That's a strong accusation. A cover-up implies intentional concealment, coordinated silence. Media complicity. Is that what happened, or is that simply how it feels to those who believe certain stories never receive equal treatment? I've covered media long enough to know this. Narratives are shaped by editorial decisions. Some stories get oxygen, others fade, but the internet doesn't forget. Archive pages, screenshots, old press releases, cached images. In 2026, almost nothing truly disappears. And if this investigation really does contain 8 years worth of documented material, we could be looking at a detailed timeline reconstruction of Meghan's pre-royal life, including social connections, business relationships, travel patterns, and perhaps explanations for long-standing rumors that have lingered in online forums for years. Now, let me address the phrase that has circulated repeatedly, yacht girl. It's a term loaded with implication, often used online to describe women who allegedly attended luxury yacht parties with wealthy elites. There has been no verified evidence publicly proving Meghan engaged in anything improper, but the rumor has existed in certain corners of the internet for a long time. The upcoming report is rumored to tackle that narrative directly, either to substantiate parts of it with documentation or to dismantle it with context. And honestly, if there's one way to end speculation, it's with facts. Clear timelines, verified sources, receipts. If the report delivers that, it could shift the conversation entirely. But there's also risk, because if claims are exaggerated or unsupported, it could backfire dramatically. Meghan has proven willing to pursue legal action when she believes coverage crosses the line. British tabloids have learned that the hard way, so whoever publishes this investigation must be confident. Now let me bring a human perspective into this. Imagine living under a microscope for nearly a decade, every friendship analyzed, every photo dissected, every deleted Instagram post turned into conspiracy fuel. That kind of pressure changes people. It hardens them, or isolates them, or pushes them to double down. I don't know Meghan personally. None of us watching do. We see curated images, carefully produced interviews, edited documentaries, But behind that is a human being navigating fame, power, motherhood, and relentless scrutiny. At the same time, public figures who build brands around authenticity invite examination. And when contradictions appear, real or perceived, audiences react. That's where we are now. On one side, supporters who believe Meghan has been unfairly targeted, smeared, and subjected to misogynistic narratives. On the other, critics who believe key parts of her story don't add up and deserve rigorous investigation. The truth likely sits somewhere in the tension between those extremes. If this 8-year investigation truly contains what's being teased, scrubbed information, testimony, and documented connections, it could reopen conversations many assumed were settled. It could also deepen divides. What fascinates me most is how strategic the rollout appears. Test fragments, hint at explosive names, reference archive drafts, create anticipation. That's modern media warfare. And it works. Because right now, you're watching, you're listening, you're curious. So let me ask you this, and I want detailed answers in the comments. If major media outlets previously reported that Meghan could have been called to testify in a high-profile legal case, why did that detail fade so quickly from public discussion? Do you believe it was insignificant or intentionally downplayed? And if this investigation proves substantial, should it receive the same primetime coverage her Oprah interview did? Be honest. Now here's what I'm watching for next. Will there be legal pushback before publication? Will representatives issue preemptive denials? Will mainstream outlets ignore it or amplify it? And perhaps most importantly, will the report provide hard evidence or rely on anonymous accounts? Because credibility will determine everything. In today's climate, audiences are exhausted by rumor. They want proof. They want screenshots, dates, corroboration. Not vibes, not insinuation. Proof. And if proof exists, it will change the game. If it doesn't, it can solidify Meghan's narrative that she is perpetually targeted. Either way, this moment matters, because 8 years is not a casual hobby. It's a sustained effort, and sustained efforts usually have purpose. As this story develops, I'll continue breaking it down piece by piece, calmly, carefully, without hysteria. But I won't ignore it, because transparency should never be selective. If we demand accountability from institutions, we must also demand it from individuals who criticize those institutions. Fairness cuts both ways. Before I close, let me say this personally. I've watched this saga unfold from engagement interviews to royal exits, from tell-all specials to memoir releases. I've seen public sympathy swing like a pendulum. What I've learned is that narratives evolve. Today's villain becomes tomorrow's victim. Today's icon becomes tomorrow's controversy. And sometimes the truth is quieter than both extremes. If this investigation brings clarity, good. If it brings chaos, we'll sort through it. But ignoring it won't make it disappear. So here's your final question tonight. If the full report drops tomorrow and contains documented, verifiable material that challenges Meghan Markle's public story, will you reconsider your opinion? Or are you already firmly decided? Tell me below. And if you want in-depth analysis, the moment this goes live, make sure you subscribe right now, hit like, and turn on notifications. Share this with someone who's been following the royal saga as closely as you have. Because whether you support her or question her, this next chapter could redefine everything. Stay tuned.